At GCSE level, I did all the standard ones, so maths, English, science. Of the optional ones, I did like German, systems and electronics, I can't remember what the other ones were, geography, or business studies. And I think they were all interesting. To be honest, the one that helped me the most at university was maths, which was mandatory. But that was certainly for the subject which I ended up doing. That was really useful. Then at A level, I chose to do maths, physics and computer science. And I did geography at AS, but I dropped that after a year. So maths I really enjoyed. I always quite liked maths. The great thing was I did maths and mechanics rather than maths and statistics. So maths and mechanics is all about frictions, forces and things like that, which was basically exactly the same as what I was doing in physics. So it was kind of doing the same thing twice, which was really good. The computing course was, well, physics was great, bit of maths again, which was good, and some other sort of interesting things. And the computing course was quite good, but definitely sort of made me decide that I wanted to study that further at university. So what I'm currently working on at the minute, there's quite a range of things. Sunderland Software City, who I work for, so basically they're a publicly funded organisation who work to grow the software sector in the North East. And for that reason we have a range of sort of skills within the team, and I'm the software specialist, so I'm sort of the techie guy. So I do a lot of client work at the minute, and that's what I've got sort of on my books at the moment. So I can't go into too much detail about the clients, but I've got a whole range. Some of them are building websites, some are building apps. Some of them are, doing research into hardware that they think they might need, things like that. But I think I have about 7 or 8 sort of clients ongoing at the minute. But then outside of that, Software City, we get involved in a lot of different things. So, for example, we're running a training course with Sage, which actually starts next week, teaching Scrum Agile development for software. We're also setting up an initiative called the Coders Academy, where we're trying to encourage the unemployed to learn how to program, and we're actually going to take 10 unemployed people and run them through an intensive course and turn them into developers and employ them for a year. So there's a lot of sort of setting up with that. Other things, we're working with the Tyne and Wear Integrated Transport Authority, who run basically all of the transport and infrastructure across the region. They have a lot of data about all sorts, roads, roadworks, traffic, car parks, everything to do with that sort of transport and infrastructure. And they've got all that data, and they're really keen to build an open data platform so that people can see it and interact with it, possibly build applications off the back of it. So that's taking up quite a lot of my time at the minute. So it's sort of client work and then kind of extracurricular stuff is what's keeping me. So everything that we do, hopefully in some way benefits the region, so the software sector in the North East. And if it doesn't, then it doesn't help us to meet our targets. So the client work that I'm doing hopefully obviously brings a direct benefit to the clients, but in doing that grows the sector in the region, so they employ more, they are more successful, they become more stable and secure, they grow, and that's the aim. Basically Sunderland Council and the European Regional Development Fund believe that the North East can be the next Silicon Valley, so we can be the next sort of big software sector in the North East. The extracurricular activities that I do, so the things like the Transport Authority Open Platform, the Scrum course, they sort of indirectly benefit the region. So hopefully with the Transport Data Platform, we're creating opportunities for software companies to build applications that will ultimately generate revenue for them. The Scrum course will obviously benefit them, hopefully in improving their skills and their stability. I've had, I think, quite an interesting career path. I did computer science at university. I actually originally started off doing a master's course, so a Masters in Science. And as part of that course, it was a 4-year course where between your second and third and fourth years you had to do a placement. And I went to some events during my second year to try and choose an appropriate placement. And there was guys there who were presenting for the summer placements, the 6-week placements. But then there were also people presenting for the year-long placements. So for the different course where you do 3 years studying and 1 year in industry. And what I found was that the year-long placements were so much more interesting than the 2 or 3 month placements. So I decided to change my degree from a master's with sort of summer placements to a bachelor's with a full year sandwich course. And I applied for a couple of companies. I got an interview with I think just the one, which was Accenture. And I was very, very fortunate that I was one of the 10 people who they took on that year. And given my grades at the time, I was quite surprised because I was only on, I think, a 2-2 at that point in my second year. And I wasn't really enjoying the course, if I'm being honest. I found it very dry. I mean, I studied at Manchester University and it's a very traditional course. But there's a lot of theory and not a lot of practical, and I'm quite a sort of hands-on type of learner, so it didn't really suit me. So at that point I was questioning the course. I took the year, was very fortunate that Accenture offered me the opportunity. I worked there for actually about 14-15 months in the end, because I worked through the following summer. Absolutely loved it. Ended up on a project up in Newcastle just by coincidence, even though I was based in London. Was there for the full placement, had a great time. And they actually asked me to stay on, but obviously I wanted to come back and finish my degree. So I went back and finished, graduated with a first, which, given I was on a 2-2 when I started, was a surprise, but I just knew that once I'd done that placement, I knew exactly what I wanted to do. I wanted to go back into consulting, and I wanted to get a first because I knew that I could, because I'd worked hard during my placement year, and it basically taught me a lot of things about how to work hard and be smart in what you do, and how to work for something that you want. And then Accenture offered me a job when I graduated, so I worked for them for a further 3 years. Was on a number of projects, one in Leeds, one in Ireland, and then one in London. My last project was with Sainsbury's, so we built the new Sainsbury's e-commerce platform, or what was new back in 2008, 2009. And that was like an 18-month project, and it was very interesting. I was basically a technical architect. So my early roles, just to go back, so my first role was as a software tester. I then moved into what's called live support, so supporting products that had already been released. Then my next 2 roles were functional design, so sort of meeting with clients, understanding their requirements and building specifications off what they wanted for Asda in Leeds and then VHI in Dublin. Then I was on a fixed team, so I was actually writing code and fixing software after test cycles. But then my final role at Sainsbury's was a technical architect, and basically a technical architect's role is to, as it kind of sounds, design the architecture involved in a project. So that could be hardware, could also be software, infrastructure, networking, backup, recovery, resilience, the whole sort of spectrum that's involved in that case, hosting a large website. And it was a really interesting role, lots of different opportunities, lots of stuff to learn. Really enjoyed it, realised that technical architecture was sort of what I like to do the most. But after about sort of three or 4 years of working in Accenture, I decided I wanted to try something a bit different, get a bit of perspective. So I ended up moving back home, back to the northeast, and I actually took a role with my parents' business for 2 years as a manager. So they've run a small air conditioning firm, and they've run that for about 25 years, and they were looking to grow it and to change it. And with the recession, they were having some problems. So I thought, well, that's a great opportunity. I've always wanted to run my own business and to see how it's done sort of firsthand. So I took that role and ended up being sort of integrated into the business. I was did all sorts. I was like a new business manager, so I tried to bring sales in. I ran the warehouse, so we basically redesigned all the stock layout and everything, and the stock management systems. And I ended up being their accountant as well. I'd never studied accounts before, but just by circumstance, their accountant had left, and I just decided, well, maybe I could teach myself how to do the books, and I could be the accountant. So I did that for them as well. And then after 2 years of that, I decided to get back into software. That's when I took the role with Sunderland Software City. And I've been doing that for about 12 months now. And it's great because it's quite varied. You know, every client's different, every project's different. But it's a great job to do because you're helping people. And I can offer, well, I'd like to think I can offer a professional service, or say an Accenture level service for free because of the way that we're funded, to small businesses who otherwise would struggle to get that type of support. And we do have other skills in the teams, in our team. So we have a business guy, we have a funding guy, we have a girl who's our sort of marketing expert. So we all offer free services, and it's great, and I think we bring real benefit. So my career today has been quite sort of varied, quite broad, and yeah, and I think I've learned a lot of different things, and I think going forwards I'd like to sort of build upon that and start focusing on a specialism of some kind. A career like mine, being as varied as it has been, is good because it's a good chance to try a lot and figure out what it is that you really want to do. If you're like me, I've never really known exactly what I'm good at and what I wanted to do, so I had to try different things. I had to leave Accenture and try working in a small business, and then come back to doing consulting, and so I think that's a great opportunity in any industry to be able to do that and to try all the different aspects of it, and realise what it is that you like and what it is that you're good at. I think the IT industry in general sort of bucks the trend from other industries, because currently it's one of the few industries that's actually still growing and actually has a great demand for resources. There isn't an unemployment issue in computer science. There's not enough people who have the skills. So if you want a career where you want to be in an industry that's growing, you can be at the cutting edge, generally the benefits are good. You get paid well in IT, and it should be quite secure. Then I would definitely consider sort of a career in IT. The other side to IT is it's not just technical roles, so people do get put off, God, it's all numbers and zeros and ones and things. But there's the whole spectrum. You could work as a marketing person or a creative or an artistic person in IT. You could be a manager, you could work in sales. There's the whole spectrum of roles in the IT industry and in software in general. But yeah, so I would recommend it to anyone really, because it is a growing industry and there is a lot of exciting opportunities, and I do think it's one of the cutting edge industries that's quite easy to get into if you don't mind studying, building skills in that area. But there's such a broad range of opportunities and travel and things that you can do in IT that you can't necessarily do in other more traditional industries. It's an interesting question. I think both are equally important. Because we're quite a small team, so there's only 7 of us in the company, there's not a lot of sort of hierarchy. There's basically a chief exec, and then there's kind of, well, not everyone underneath it, I have a manager who I report to, but we kind of all work on a similar level as such, and you sort of self-manage, which is fine. It's something that I'm comfortable doing, but it's something that you have to be good at. In this job, certainly you can't sit and wait for someone to give you work. You have to go out and find clients. You have to go out and find the work and find the opportunities and things yourself. So, and I don't mind doing that. I'm comfortable doing that. So I do enjoy the solo side, the sort of solo working side of things. But also, when we get together in a team, we all do sort of really good stuff. So there's people from all sorts of different backgrounds and experiences, and we all bring a different sort of idea and mindset to the table. So it's really good when we do come together and work on things. There's always challenges with listening to other people's opinions, if disagreeing with them and things like that. That's fine. That happens in any sort of team environment. But I think we all have a common goal, which is that we all want to sort of progress in what we're doing. So that helps us to work together. So I wouldn't say, not to dodge the question, that I preferred one over the other. But I think both of them are important, and I sort of equally enjoy both of them. So. As I sort of mentioned earlier, I have kind of two goals going forwards, and again quite broad. I mean, I like I said, I've never known exactly from a young lad what I wanted to do. I've always just sort of enjoyed trying different things, so I'll probably try another 100 different things before I choose what it is that I exactly want. I would like to become a specialist in something. So my current role is software specialist, but actually what it requires of me is to actually be able to handle a lot of different skills and have a lot of different skills and handle a lot of different types of work. I would quite like to sort of become a specialist in something. So to be the not at the cutting edge necessarily, but to be the expert in a certain industry sector, type of IT. So maybe to go back into technical architecture and be the guy who's the go-to guy on storage or networking or something. That I need to figure out what it is, but that's something I would like to do. But then in the sort of slightly more distant future, I would like to run my own business one day. So that's something that I've always aspired to do. I do have lots of ideas. I don't really give myself a lot of time to do any work on them, but and I do think that sort of becoming an expert in something would help me to kind of isolate what type of business it is that I would set up. But yeah, that's sort of the focus for the next part of my career, is to find a slightly more specific area that I want to focus on and develop my skill set in and work in that for a number of years. And then at some point I would like to run my own business and sort of have that later in life, so that it gives me a bit more flexibility. I do think running a business is difficult and challenging, but I think it also brings a lot of opportunity, a lot of control over your own life and what happens to you when you're working for someone else. You fair enough, you can choose where you work, but you're ultimately someone else is kind of in control of your destiny, as it were. So there's sort of the two things that I can see in my horizon, but how I'm going to get there, I'm not quite sure at this stage. So I think one of the main skills that's important in sort of, well, certainly consulting and the types of jobs that I've had, it's not necessarily to know everything or to know a lot about a specific subject, but to be able to pick stuff up really quickly, because you will get thrown in a situation which is totally different to something you've done before, and because you're the IT guy, people naturally expect you to just understand it and to be able to comment and sort of provide input. So I wouldn't say it was the ability to know a lot, but it's the ability to pick stuff up quickly and to learn about something quickly in enough detail to be able to have a comment on it. I think in consulting, it's a very exciting industry. There's a lot of opportunity there, but it can also be quite stressful, and the projects, the exciting parts can also be the slightly daunting parts. And you may be asked to travel, you may be asked to work long hours. The benefits come with that, but that was certainly one of my considerations when I decided to move on from Accenture. Was I was doing a lot more hours than I was comfortable doing for an extended period. So for about sort of 2 years, I was working very long and late hours, and I just decided, right, well, I'd like to try something different now and move on from that. So I think an important skill is to manage your own time, but to be confident, to give as much as you want, but not more. So it's something just to bear in mind, because it's very easy to become the guy who wants to say yes to everyone and the guy who wants to be the hero, be the last guy in the office, or something like that. And actually, you start to become less productive. You become a bit worn out and a bit jaded, and before you know it, you're just invariably staying late because you have to catch up on things. So I would suggest setting the expectation, that the office hours are the office hours. If you need to work late occasionally, great, but don't let it be the sort of standard. Because certainly for me, that was part of my problems. Was I just every piece of work that was given to me, I just did, and I wore myself out. So yeah, I'd say be willing to sort of pick stuff up quickly. Don't be afraid of jumping in on a subject that you don't know a lot about, because hopefully you'll learn and you'll figure it out. Be able to say no to people and sort of, within reason. Obviously nobody wants someone to just turn up and start leaving at 3 o'clock every day, but manage your own time well. Make sure you get the work done, but then don't sort of, don't do all the work and leave some for other people. And I think the final one, which is quite important, is to be a sort of a completer finisher. So in IT, it's so much of the work is project driven, timeline driven. You need to be able to complete something, draw a line under it, and walk away from it. There's not many projects that sort of go on constantly. Everything is kind of time bound. So it's focusing on your deliverables, what's expected of you, getting that done as to the appropriate standard, and then moving on to the next thing, because that's really important. And as in all industries, time is money. So getting the work done and sort of drawing a line under it is very important as well. Yeah, I do. I think taking industrial placement year was one of the best things I ever did, and given that it was a slightly haphazard approach to choosing to do it, I was very fortunate in that sense. It has shaped my career and, to a degree, my life to date. As I mentioned previously, I was only on a 2-2 at Manchester. I wasn't enjoying the course, but the placement year really opened my eyes to what I was working towards and what I was working for. So, if nothing else, it engaged me into the course, and it motivated me to come back and complete it successfully. And I really, really wanted to go back and get a first, whereas before then I would have been very happy with a borderline 2-1. And so that, if nothing else, engaged me and motivated me. What it also taught me was a number of practical skills which were actually useful. So, hands-on development skills, design skills, client-facing skills, confidence. So you have to be very confident to work in an environment like that, where you're constantly meeting people who are important and senior, and you have to be able to converse with them confidently and communicate with them, answer their questions and things. It definitely improved my work ethic. I'm not saying I was lazy, but I just didn't really understand exactly how much work I could do and how hard I could work until I did it, and I think that was part of the reason why I was successful when I got back to university.